Yeah, I believe there's been a significant shift over time, and I'll be happy to explain. In the past, recycling wasn't widely practiced. Let me give you an example. People didn't pay much attention to environmental issues, and there were barely any policies in place to encourage recycling. To be more specific, people didn't separate their waste properly. They would just throw everything together, and as a result, the streets often smelled unpleasant. However, we have witnessed a dramatic transformation over the years. Nowadays, environmental awareness has grown considerably, and most people are much more conscious of pollution. Recycling has become a regular part of everyday life. And for instance, we are now required to separate our waste and recycle at designated places and locations and times. If we fail to do so, we may face fines that are too hefty to ignore. So I think it's clear that recycling has become a much more serious matter in South Korea than it used to be. So to sum up, as you can see, there has been a dramatic change in ways people recycle in the past and people recycle nowadays. 재활용 관련 뉴스 보도된 내용. Okay, so I recently came across a news report about recycling and it really caught my attention. So, as more people rely on online shopping and delivery services, the amount of packaging being used has increased noticeably, you know? So, I actually experienced this myself when I was trying to order 2 packs of ramen noodle, but they were delivered in 2 completely separate boxes. I was like, what is this? Because of situations like this, the volume of recycled box waste is growing rapidly. Even though my family and I make an effort to recycle at home, dealing with all that extra packaging can be quite frustrating. On top of that, I heard that the cost of processing this waste has gone up significantly. For example, our city reportedly spends around 10 billion won every year just to manage waste disposal. Can you believe it? In my opinion, while recycling is obviously important, I believe it is even more critical to focus on reducing waste in the first place. So that is the message I took away from the news, and I think it is something we all need to think about more seriously. 부모님과 내가 집안일을 하는 방법의 차이. Yeah, okay. I believe there are clear differences in the way we deal with problems at home and depending on the generation. So let me start with my parents. Whenever something breaks, they usually just try to fix it themselves and without asking for help. For instance, when our air conditioner stopped working, my dad managed to repair it all by himself, almost like a professional. To this day, I still have no idea where he picked up those skills. All right, but as for me though, I'm not that confident when it comes to handling serious issues at home. That's why I usually reach out to professionals or take the item to a service center. Okay, so let me give you an example. When my heater broke, I tried to fix it on my own, just like my dad would, but it didn't work out at all. In the end, I called him for help because yeah, okay, let's face it. Yeah, he's basically the expert in our family when it comes to that stuff. That said, when it comes to smaller problems, we are actually quite similar. Both my dad and I can take care of simple things like replacing light bulbs or tightening loose screws. So overall, while there are definitely some differences in how we handle major issues, we still share a few habits when it comes to the little things. 5년에서 10년 사이의 주거 형태의 변화. Actually, I don't think a 5-year gap makes a big difference when it comes to housing. So instead, I like to compare things to how they were around 30 years ago. And I have to say, the changes have been pretty dramatic. So when I was a kid, I used to live in an apartment. Back then, the apartment complexes didn't have any fancy facilities like movie theaters, fitness centers, or saunas. There were just a small playground, and sometimes my friends and I would just even play soccer in the parking lot because there weren't many options. That was pretty much all we'd had. But now, things have completely changed. I still live in an apartment, just like before, but the overall environment is completely different. These days, our complexes comes with a variety of amenities, and residents have free access to the gym, a nice park, and even indoor and outdoor play areas for kids. Because of that, my children don't have to play only in the playground like I did when I was young. They have more choices and safer spaces. So to sum up, I think living in an apartment today feels much more convenient and secure compared to how it was in the past. 여러 가전제품들이 가사 노동에 변화를 준 것들. Absolutely. There has been a major shift in the way we handle house chores. To begin with, let me talk about how things were in the past. Back then, we didn't have access to the kinds of advanced technologies we enjoy today. So most household tasks had to be done manually, one by one. For instance, I clearly remember my mom was washing the dishes and sweeping the floor all by herself. She often said that it was both exhausting and incredibly time consuming. But nowadays, the situation is completely different. We have a wide range of home appliances that makes chores much easier and allow us to manage our time more effectively. Take the laundry dryer and robot vacuum cleaner, for example. So thanks to the dryer, we no longer need bulky drying racks that take up space. And what I personally find most useful is the robot vacuum cleaner. It cleans the floor on its own, and which not only saves time but also reduces the amount of physical effort we have to put in. So overall, I can confidently say that modern technology has made daily life far more convenient, especially when it comes to managing household tasks. So as you can see, there has been a huge transformation, and it's all thanks to technological advancements. 일상생활에 도움을 주는 가전제품 소개. Numerous electronic gadgets are making our lives at home far more efficient and convenient. Honestly, I can think of hundreds of them, but instead of listing all, let me just mention a few that come to my mind right now. First of all, I want to talk about the microwave. Some people might take it for granted, but in my opinion, it's definitely a powerful piece of technology. Thanks to this appliance, we can save a significant amount of time, especially during busy mornings. For me, it's a total lifesaver. Another great invention is the air fryer. It allows us to cook food without using too much oil, which is perfect for people who are trying to eat healthier these days. As you know, more and more people are becoming health conscious. So overall, I am really grateful for these modern technologies. They make our daily routine smoother and help us live more comfortably and mindfully. 친구들과 영화 관련 이야기하는 토픽들, 뉴스. To be honest, movies are not something that my friends and I talk about very often. That doesn't mean we don't enjoy watching them, of course, but it's just not a common topic in our conversations. However, I do remember one time when we had a pretty deep discussion about how far Korean movies and dramas have come. I'm sure you have heard of Netflix series like Squid Game. I once came across an article from CNN that showed up on my feed, and although I just skimmed through it, it said that at least 40% of the global population had watched the show. Even people in countries with limited internet access, such as North Korea, somehow knew about it. I thought that was absolutely incredible. Let me share a personal story to explain what I mean. I went to Australia on a business trip with some of my coworkers. One evening, I was relaxing at a bar with beer, and I noticed that the bar was playing a Korean TV show I hadn't even ever seen before. Surprisingly, everyone around me seemed to know what it was, and I was the only one who felt out of the loop. That's when my coworkers and I looked at each other and said something like, wow, Korean content is seriously making waves around the world. So in the end, whenever we do talk about movies, the conversation usually focuses on how much Korean films and dramas have evolved and gained international popularity. 음식점의 건강 음식으로의 트렌드 변화. When it comes to restaurants and menus, there have been quite a few changes over the years. In the past, people usually ate out only on special occasions like birthdays or anniversaries. Back then, going to a restaurant felt like a big celebration. I remember that my family would go out maybe once a year, often to a Korean barbecue place or an all-you-can-eat buffet. Since it was such a rare treat, we tended to overeat and would leave the restaurant feeling completely stuffed with heavy and greasy food. But nowadays, things are quite different. So the thing is, people are much more health conscious than before. So even when they eat out or order delivery food, they prefer meals that are lighter and more balanced. As a result, many restaurants have started to offer healthier menu options to meet this demand. For example, in my company cafeteria, I can easily get a fresh salad every day for lunch, which shows how common healthy choices have become. So clearly, food trends in restaurants have changed a lot over time, and in my opinion, it's definitely a change for the better. 체인점에 갔었을 때 내 경험과 로컬 음식점에서의 경험 비교. Before going to a chain restaurant, I usually already know what I want to order. That's because most franchise restaurants offer preset combos or meals, and they are known for providing food with a high level of consistency. For example, I'm a regular at Burger King, and I almost always go for the Whopper, which is one of their signature burgers. What I love about it is that I can enjoy the same taste no matter where I am in the world. I even went to Burger King in Australia, or actually, it's called Hungry Jack's there. But anyway, but the burger still tasted exactly the same. The consistency gives me comfort, especially when I'm in a foreign country. But does that mean chain restaurants are better than local places? Not necessarily. On the other hand, when I visit small local restaurants, things feel quite different. Since they don't usually have fixed combo menus, I often have to take my time looking through the options to decide what to order. And if the menu isn't in a language I understand, I usually need to ask for help. For instance, when I traveled to Vietnam, I had a hard time figuring out what to eat because nothing was written in English. And I didn't want to accidentally order something too unfamiliar. So overall, I would say the biggest difference between chain restaurants and local ones is predictability. With chains, I know exactly what I'm getting, while local spots offer more variety and surprise, but that also means a bit of a more uncertainty, I guess. 사람들이 음식점을 고를 때 고려하는 요소들. When it comes to food, taste is always the first thing my friends and I talk about. We all agree that flavor is the top priority, especially when we eat out for special occasions. That's why we often search online for popular spots or well-reviewed restaurants before deciding where to go. If the food doesn't meet our expectation in terms of the taste, we never go back, no matter how great the reviews are. We also talk about the price. It's not that we are looking for the cheapest option, but we do prefer restaurants that offer good value for money. We know that you usually get what you pay for. But still, finding a place that's affordable and satisfying is always worth the effort. Cleanliness is another important factor we often discuss. We are not looking for anything fancy, but we do want the restaurant to be clean and well maintained. Hygiene is something we simply can't overlook. So overall, when we talk about restaurants, we focus on three main things: taste, price, and cleanliness. These are the key factors that help us decide where to go. Takeout, 배달 음식의 변화. I use food delivery services quite often these days, but because the delivery platforms have made the whole process much easier and more convenient. But things weren't always like this in the past. So, of course, delivery services existed, but they were nothing like what we have now. Back then, we had to call restaurant directly to place an order, and it wasn't always easy. Sometimes I had to wait on hold for 5 or even 10 minutes, especially during busy hours. And the options were pretty limited too, mostly Chinese food, pizza, or fried chicken. Now, things have completely changed. We no longer need to make phone calls or wait endless on the line. So with just a few taps on the app, we can order almost any kind of food we want whenever we want it. Thanks to this kind of technology, life has become much more convenient. Personally, I often use a platform called Delivery People, and honestly, I think I'm gaining weight because of how easy it is to order food these days. So as you can see, the way we order food has changed drastically, and I think it's a perfect example of how technology continues to shape our daily lives. 내가 좋아하는 뮤지션, 작곡가 2명 비교. To be honest, I don't have a specific genre of music that I would call my favorite. I'm not very picky when it comes to music, so I enjoy listening to a variety of genres such as K-pop, pop, and even acoustic or ballad songs depending on my mood. Since I'm supposed to make a comparison, let me just talk about two of the most famous K-pop artists in Korea, who are IU and BTS. First, let me start with IU. You may heard of her before. She's one of the most iconic and best-selling solo musicians in Korea. What makes her stand out is her ability to write and perform songs that are both trendy and emotionally touching. She has released many hit songs among them. My personal favorite is the song called Night Letter. Her voice is delicate yet expressive, and sometimes it really moves me. Mm, Now, let me talk about BTS. Unlike IU, BTS is a boy group, not a solo artist, and by now, almost everyone around the world knows who they are. Their songs are modern, upbeat, and performance driven, which makes them incredibly popular. However, compared to IU, I find that their music is less sentimental or emotionally deep. That difference in tone and style is what sets them apart, in my opinion. Still, when it comes to global recognition and influence, both IU and BTS have played a huge role in spreading K-pop around the world. Even though their styles are different, I think they both represent the best of what Korean music has to offer. 요즘 인기를 끄는 음악 장비, 설비, 기술. These days, a number of cutting-edge music technologies have been introduced, and they have definitely captured people's attention. In particular, I like to talk about music streaming services, which have become a big part of our daily lives. Let me start by mentioning some of the popular streaming platforms in Korea. One of the biggest ones is called Melon. I've been using Melon ever since I was young, and I probably use it even more now since I'm basically glued to my smartphone all day. Melon, funny name, right? Like the fruit. Anyway, it's incredibly convenient in many ways. What I love most about it is that I can create my own playlist. So thanks to advancement technology like artificial intelligence, I no longer have to spend time organizing my favorite songs manually. The app automatically recommends playlists based on my listening habits, which saves time and makes the experience more enjoyable. Let me use the remaining time to touch on one more exciting trend, which is AI generated music. Nowadays, people can use AI services to mix and recreate songs using the voices of different artists. For example, you can even hear something as unexpected as Justin Bieber singing the Korean national anthem. It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? This kind of collaboration between musicians and AI is opening a new whole chapter in the music industry. So there are many other new developments in this field, but for now, those are the ones that stood out most to me. 어렸을 때의 모임과 현재의 모임 차이점. People have always gathered to celebrate special occasions, and that hasn't really changed. However, the way we celebrate has seen a few noticeable changes over the years. In Korea, for instance, there's a traditional celebration called 돌잔치, which marks a child's first birthday. In the past, this event was considered one of the most important celebrations in a person's life. In some cases, it was treated with the same level of importance as a wedding. Relatives, neighbors, and friends, and even colleagues would all come together to celebrate. It wasn't unusual to see 100 or more guests in a large banquet hall. For example, I once attended a baby's first birthday party where nearly 200 people were invited. Everyone was there to wish for the child's health and happiness, which was quite impressive. But these days, things are different. Large gatherings like that have become much less common, especially after the outbreak of COVID-19. Celebrations have become smaller and more private, and usually limited to close family members and a few friends. People simply share a meal together and offer their well wishes for the child. I remember being invited to a dojanchi not long ago, and I was surprised by how small it was. Only immediate family members were there, and the total number of guests was nowhere near 200. So, as you can see, there has been a significant shift in the way we celebrate special occasions now compared to the past. That's what I have observed based on my own experiences. 모임 관련 사람들이 갖고 있는 우려 사항들. In the past, people were extremely cautious about attending large events because of the coronavirus. But now that COVID-19 has officially come to an end, we tend to forget how serious the situation was. We tend to forget how serious the situation actually was. But to be honest, it was far more frightening than we remember it now. So, to prevent the spread of the virus, people tried to avoid face to face interactions as much as possible in the past. Crowded places were often avoided, and because of that, it became nearly impossible to host events or large gatherings. Okay, since I have still have some time, let me just mention some other important point. So budget is definitely something that cannot be overlooked. Not everyone can afford to have a fancy dinner at an expensive hotel. So choosing an appropriate dining venue is within a reasonable budget is something many people worry about. In fact, finding a balance between cost and quality is often a key part of planning an event. 사람들이 휴가를 보내는 방법. So there have been quite a few noticeable changes in how people spend their vacations, and much of that has to do with the outbreak of COVID-19. So these days, as you know, the World Health Organization officially declared the end of the pandemic, and honestly, many of us tend to forget how serious it was. But during the pandemic, enjoying outdoor activities wasn't really an option. Minimizing face to face contact was essential, and avoiding crowded places became the norm. We had to follow strict social distancing rules, which made it nearly impossible to attend any outdoor events, no matter where they were. To be honest, life felt pretty restricted. That's why most people ended up staying home and having what we now call a staycation. Now things have completely changed. Most countries have declared COVID-19 as pandemic, and people are finally free to enjoy their vacations the way they used to. So I remember seeing a news report showing a park packed with tents and RVs with families enjoying outdoor activities and spending the night under the stars. So social distancing, it feels like a thing of the past. So this is how people's vacation styles have shifted since the pandemic. So how about you, Ava? Have you noticed any changes in your own habits since then? 휴가가 중요하다고 생각하는 이유. Vacations are essential for many reasons. They give people a much needed break, which benefits not only their physical and mental health, but also their relationship and the personal growth. First of all, taking some time off is important for staying healthy. Everyone needs a chance to relax and recharge. When people work continuously without rest, they eventually feel exhausted and overwhelmed. Vacations give them the opportunity to unwind and return to work with more energy and focus, which can actually improve their performance. Another key benefit of vacation is the impact they have on relationship. So spending quality time with family or friends helps strengthen emotional bonds. Whether it's traveling together or simply enjoying shared experiences or vacations, allow people to create lasting memories with the people they care about. Finally, vacations are a great opportunity for personal development. Stepping away from daily routines gives people time to reflect on their lives and think about their future goals. It's also a perfect moment to work on self growth, such as learning a new language or picking up a new hobby. All in all, vacations play a vital role in maintaining our overall well being, which is why they should never be overlooked. 20년간 사람들의 식품 구매 방식 변화. I've definitely noticed a big change in the way people do their food shopping. Let me walk you through it step by step. In the past, the only way to get groceries was to visit markets in person. Even when people wanted to buy things in bulk, they had no choice but to carry everything home themselves. This was especially difficult for those without a car. Let me share a personal memory. When I was a kid, I loved watermelon, but buying one was always a challenge because carrying it home was a no joke. I used to say I had to sacrifice my arms just to enjoy that one fruit. But now, things are completely different. Online grocery shopping has become the norm, and I regularly use platforms like Coupang or Market Curly, and they make everything so convenient. All I have to do is scroll through my phone, pick what I want, and place an order with a simple tap. If I want a watermelon now, I don't need to carry it. I just need a finger tap. So as you can see, there has been a huge shift in shopping habits. So I no longer have to sacrifice my arms to get what I want. And honestly, I'm not complaining about it. 식품 오염 사건, 식품 관련 문제에 대해 보도된 뉴스. Wow, this topic is a bit overwhelming. Honestly, it feels like rocket science to me. And I wish I had a moment to think about it. Nothing really comes to my mind right now, but actually, oh, yeah, I do remember watching a short video clip of a few months ago that completely shocked me. So in the video, a man was seen urinating inside the brewery, and to my surprise, it turned out to be the facility of Qingdao beer. I mean, one of the most famous beer brands in China. This incident quickly went viral, not only in Korea, but across the globe. So everyone around me was talking about it. And I also saw news report that said the company's sales dropped by 30% after the video went public. So, and their stock value reportedly fell by over $1 billion or something. Personally, I love Chinese food, and Qingdao beer used to be my go-to drink whenever I had something greasy or spicy. But after seeing that clip, I haven't touched this. I haven't even touched it since. So it really changed the way I feel about the brand. 건강에 대한 인식과 운동법, 과거 현재 비교. Exercise has always been one of the main ways people try to stay healthy, both in the past and today. But I can confidently say that the way people approach fitness has changed dramatically over time. In the past, people believed that doing more was always better. They thought walking long distances, running for 2 hours, or lifting heavy weights was the key to getting in shape. Back then, working out meant pushing yourself hard and enduring long and repetitive routines. As you can imagine, this kind of approach wasn't sustainable for most people, and only a few were able to maintain their fitness over the long term. These days, people think quite differently. They no longer assume that harder or longer workouts are always the best option. Instead, there are many different ways to exercise that are more sustainable and enjoyable. For example, yoga has been a popular choice for years now. Pilates has also gained a lot of attention recently, especially since many people today suffer from poor posture or spinal issues like scoliosis or text neck. There are also more dynamic and fun options like Zumba or CrossFit, which make exercise feel less like a chore and more like an activity to look forward to. So overall, I would say that people now have more freedom to choose workouts that match their personal needs and lifestyles, which makes staying healthy a lot more achievable for everyone. 들이 요즘 많이 언급하는 인기 상품, 서비스. Unlike in the past, especially during my mom's generation, we now have the privilege of using a wide range of electronic devices at home. Honestly, it's hard to choose just one to talk about, so I'll simply mention a couple that have made the biggest difference in my daily life. Okay, so let me start with kitchen appliances. First of all, the microwave. Some people may take it for granted, but to me, it's actually a pretty incredible piece of technology. It helps me save a lot of time in the morning, which is a huge benefit since I'm always running late as a typical office worker. For me, it's a total lifesaver. Another great appliance is the air fryer. Thanks to this device, I can enjoy fried food without even using too much oil. These days, people are becoming more health conscious, and I'm no exception. Even when I crave something like fried chicken, I can avoid consuming too much saturated fat by using the air fryer instead. Overall, I really believe that these kinds of smart kitchen technologies have made life much easier and healthier. And honestly, I'm very grateful for that. 5년간 여행이 더 어려워진 이유. In the past, traveling overseas was not easy for most people due to the outbreak of COVID-19. But now that the pandemic has officially come to an end, we tend to forget how serious the situation really was. But just a reminder, it was actually quite intense and restrictive. So, to prevent the spread of the virus, we had to minimize face-to-face contact, and mass gatherings were strictly prohibited, and international travelers were required to show proof of vaccination, commonly referred to as the vaccine pass. This made the entire travel process far more complicated than usual. But now that the pandemic is over, traveling has become much simpler than it was back then, obviously. However, the impact of COVID-19 is still being felt. Many travel agencies went out of business, and airlines had to reduce the number of routes by, routes they operated. Because of that, restoring the travel industry to what it used to be is still a work in progress. For example, a few months ago, I was planning a business trip and tried to book a flight, but it was difficult to find tickets for that exact days I needed. In the end, I had no choice but to adjust my schedule. So, in a nutshell, the pandemic has made international travel much more difficult over the past few years. And although things are improving, we are still dealing with some of the after effects. 여행 관련하여 사람들이 갖고 있는 걱정 설명. So, when it comes to traveling, there are several things people tend to worry about, and I'm definitely one of them. The first concern that comes to my mind is safety. Traveling to a new place can be exciting, but it also brings some anxiety, especially when you are familiar with the environment. For example, when I went on a business trip to Australia for the first time, I was a bit nervous because I didn't know much about that area. But once I got used to the surroundings and understood how things worked, I felt much more at ease. Still, I since I still have a little time, let me talk about another important issue, which is the budget. This is something that most people can't overlook. I mean, not everyone can afford to stay at a luxury hotel or enjoy fine dining during their trip. With inflation making many things more expensive these days, finding a place to stay that fits within your budget has become even more challenging. So it's no surprise that cost is one of the biggest concerns people have when planning a trip. Anyway, I think those are the two most important things I personally consider when traveling. So that's all I have for now.